Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching NDTV Battleground. Over the next 2 hours, we will get you the numbers from the Bihar exit polls. We're going to be looking at 3 exit polls today, 2 polls tomorrow, and in a moment from now, I'll explain just why. We have a fabulous lineup of poll pundits in the studio who will be helping us understand the Bihar poll numbers. Let me introduce you to our guests right at the outset. I'll begin with Veer Sanghvi. Is coming back to television after a very long time. Veer, fantastic to have you back. Prabhu Chawla joins us. You've seen him on TV the last few days explaining the numbers, explaining the dynamics Bihar to our viewers. We have Amitabh Tiwari's come back after spending a few days in Bihar. He's joining us now. We have Shubhrashra and we have Kanchan Gupta. What is striking, and that's where I want to start this broadcast, is just the sheer jump in voting numbers. Phase 2, provisional data. These aren't final numbers. Even at this moment, in some polling centers of Bihar, polling is still going on. But just take a look at the sharp spurt in voting percentages. We'll start from 9 a.m., going all the way up till about 5 p.m., for which we have data at this moment. Just take a look at the 3 lines on your screen. The blue line at the bottom is the 2020 voting percentage. The red line above that is phase 1, which in any case saw a big jump, about a 6.5% total jump between phase 1 and phase 2. And the green line above that is phase 3. So if in the 2020 assembly elections at 5 p.m., 52.4% voters in Bihar had voted, that has now skyrocketed to 67.1%. 15% more than the last elections. In just a moment, I'll start pulling out the post-poll data, but Amitabh Tiwari, a 15% jump till 5 p.m. between 2020 and 2025. Bihar hasn't voted so much since 1915, all elections going back to independence. What's going on in your home state?
Unprecedented and very, very difficult to explain numerically and statistically.
Why is it happening?
And also to incorporate the results of this high turnout in an exit poll or a post poll is going to take some time because people are still queuing up. I think Simanchal is the region wherein yesterday you were showing that the highest number of deletions have taken place. People who are there still on the list and are migrants believe that they are fortunate enough that their names are still on the list and they have not been deleted as permanently shifted. They are going back in hordes so that their names are not deleted in the next round.
Veer Sanghvi, one of the things we picked up on the field was that this sense amongst voters that if we don't go and vote in this election, something's going to happen before the next polling where our names will be stricken off the list forever. 15% jump. Have you seen something like this?
I've never seen something like it. And yes, I agree with them. I think that is one of the main reasons. There's a great sense of insecurity that we lose the right to vote, which in a sense, while nobody should be insecure, is not a bad thing. At least people are valuing their vote and they're becoming conscious what a privilege we have in India as a democracy.
Prabhu Chawla, you've tracked elections over decades in a state like Bihar. This is the maximum polling this state has ever seen.
Yeah, it's a massive turnout. Yeah, obviously, it's unprecedented anywhere in the Indian history. Any state, not only Bihar, it never happened. This kind of spike has never happened in the past. But you have to take into account the number of votes which were cut down, total number of votes, absolute, and then calculate again what is the actual.
Sure. So that we calculated. Even if you remove the SIR effect, voting percentage, as we calculated on the show yesterday, still went up by 4%. Yeah. So there was still a big increase. Prabhakar runs our Patna bureau. He's joining us on the line at this moment. I'll start showing you one by one the different post polls that are coming in. Prabhakar, a 15% increase between the last election till now in the data that we have from the Election Commission. What are you picking up from your sources on the ground? What explains this massive surge?
So it primarily may be because of the women's voter turnout, because we were on the ground today, Rahul, and we saw a massive queue of women voters, and also the campaign which the Election Commission carried out here in Bihar, engaging all the big faces here, the celebrity faces here, and that campaign actually went on for last 6 months. So that can also be considered as one of the reasons why this turnout was there. Then you have the OSC factor, the way all the political leaders actually actually were on the ground, actually campaigning and urging people to come out. So there can be a number of reasons, Rahul. One of the reasons, as we have been discussing, is the immigrants, actually the migrants coming back to Bihar to vote, to ensure that their name is not struck off from the voter list. Also the SIR effect, the 4% effect, which you are talking about, Rahul.
Okay, we now are set with the first set of exit poll numbers. Remember, two of the leading pollsters, Access My India and C Voter, have said that they will be putting out their numbers tomorrow. So the first set of post-poll numbers on your screen right now, this is from People's Pulse. Coming up on your screen right now, People's Pulse projecting a very comfortable win for the NDA. This is the first poll coming up on your screen right now. People's Pulse is projecting a clean, clear sweep for the National Democratic Alliance, predicted to get between 133 to 159. The Jan Swaraj of Prashant Kishore just between 0 and 5. People's Pulse, and I want to show you the data as has been put out by People's Pulse. They think the Gathbandhan will be just between 75 and 101. Remember, the RJD by itself was 75 plus in the last elections. That's a big fall for the RJD. Here it is on your screen, the first set of post-poll data, 133 to 159 for Nitish Kumar and the BJP. Rahul Gandhi, Tejaswi Yadav just between 75 and 101. The JSP between 0 and 5. That's the first set of data. Shubhrashra, when the NDA sees this, they'll get some comfort. They seem to be in the first post-poll study very, very comfortably placed, well above the majority mark of 122.
Yes, the numbers as shown on your screen does look extremely comfortable for the NDA, and there can be many explanations as to why. But I think for me, the high voter turnout simply is an indication of an assertive voter who is not there to vote as a ritual, but to basically assert their agency and say that this is what we are voting for. Now, what that is can be decoded once the actual results are out.
Tehseen Poonawalla just 75 to 101. 20 years of anti-incumbency against Nitish Kumar. If this is the best that Tejaswi and Rahul can do, it's not good news. The opposition lost Haryana, Maharashtra, and now if another big state goes to the NDA, that's just not very good news.
That is a big if this holds true. But in my opinion, the increased vote percentage, 15% if you remove the SI, it would be about 10 to 11% vote increase, is to do with the M factor. The M factor is both migrants and Mahila. The Mahilas also don't want their husbands to be out of town. It could be the factor that Amitabh spoke about, the SIR and losing their vote. I think this increased vote, particularly in the Himachal area where it's crossed 70% already, is an assertion that MGB is coming back, is storming into power, and Tejaswi will be the youngest chief minister of Bihar.
So, Rahul, may I just add to this? I don't agree that Mahila doesn't want migrants to, stay out, because often we miss that migration is also aspirational. I migrated from Bihar. It was not a compulsion, but I had to do it because Bihar did not have a platform. And I don't think there is an economic model in Bihar right now which can sustain any kind of talent.
Kanchan Gupta?
Can I just one line? She's right about that, except that Tejaswi is the only person promising that you come back and I will give you jobs.
So there are two things we've seen, Kanchan. A, the collapse of the Jan Swaraj party in terms of seat share, which you had predicted. And secondly, the NDA through the campaign exuded this air of confidence and surety. They thought they had this election in the bag. The first post-poll data seems to back that.
I think the results more or less would go this way. In fact, if the NDA is actually winning this election, it would be, the numbers would be more than this. But let me also add over here, I would go with Subhrashta, that, you just because men are out of Bihar doesn't mean that women are going to vote against the incumbent government. We have discussed the women's vote in Bihar quite a few times in this studio, and we have come up with various reasons why more and more women would be turning out to vote in elections in Bihar as in other states. Number two, I don't think Prashant Kishore's JSP, end of the day, people would have wasted their votes on that.
So now I have the second set of post-poll data, and then we'll start getting into the more granular discussion. This is from Matrice. We've seen People's Pulse so far, projecting that the NDA is very comfortably placed. Let's now see what Matrice is saying. So as I said, we'll put out on NDTV post-poll data given by different agencies. This one from Matrice, which is projecting an even bigger lead for the National Democratic Alliance. Remember, in the previous one, it was around the 130 figure. This one begins at 147, goes up to a whopping 167, which essentially means that the NDA in the Matrice poll as well, very, very comfortably placed. The Gadbandhan 70 to 90, crashing even further. And here, JSP is projected to get even fewer, just between 0 and 2. The Gadbandhan together, this is the VIP, the RJD, the Congress, all together just between 70 and 90. The RJD by itself in the last election was more, and the NDA between 147 and 167, with the majority mark being 122. Veer Sanghvi, the first two pollsters, putting the NDA in a very, very comfortable position.
Yeah, that's not that much of a surprise, even if you leave aside the fact of pollsters are often wrong and we shouldn't treat this as gospel. If you talk to people within the Congress, there's already a sense in which they've lost the election. They believe that Tejaswi's appeal was not enough, and they believe, and they will say this a lot in case they do lose, that they were fighting a very powerful coalition, not just Nitish and Modi, but also the Chief Election Commissioner. And they have said from the beginning that they were going to lose because the election is rigged. Now, you can argue about whether it is or it isn't, but this is not going to surprise anyone, these results.
Chetan Bhagat now joins us. Will we hear, Chetan, a lot of this from the opposition ranks about vote chori, vote adhikar, which is what they'll try and attribute this victory to, saying, you know, it's because the election was somehow stolen from the Gadbandhan?
Yeah, they will. I mean, they will, but I think they can do it on the surface, but internally, I hope there is a lot more introspection. But Maharashtra before, and if these results hold Bihar, these are the two biggest states after UP. I mean, this almost shows that the Lok Sabha elections were an aberration. Like the NDA's performance not being that good. We thought that something is changing in Indian politics, but looks like that somehow the Lok Sabha was an aberration. And Maharashtra and Bihar in the bag, like therefore the whatever 2029, I mean, they don't have to worry anymore.
Amitabh Tiwari, you did a poll as well with Vote Vibe. Where are those numbers? Why are we talking about the other people's numbers and not yours?
We'll be releasing tomorrow.
Why tomorrow?
Because people are still in queues voting. And in 2020, the lead of NDA was coming from this zone of 16-17 seats. This is a high minority population area. 65% of Muslims of Bihar live in these 122 seats. 65%. And if there is a very high turnout, especially in Simanchal and other areas like even in Bhagalpur or Tirhut, then we have to, ring up more numbers. We have to increase the sample size. We cannot just rely on a lower number.
The people who reveal, the people who release the polls now.
Kishanganj is 77% as of now.
Correct.
Punya 74%. So these are high numbers.
And last time there was a division of vote between AIMIM and RJD Congress Alliance. If this is consolidated, we just want to hold our breath. There is no
I'll ask you a technical question. The people who release these polls right now, immediately at 6:30, the polls come out. How do they do it for today's polling? Do they have a 4:30 p.m. cutoff?
Yeah, they will all have their own cutoffs, 3 p.m., 4 p.m., 5. 5 is very, very difficult because the data comes. So it's likely to be 2 p.m., 3 p.m. cutoffs.
Prabhu Chawla?
Or a continuation.
Chetan Bhagat made, a very arguable point right at the outset. He says that this basically means that 2029 itself is settled. Would that not be too premature? What's your sense?
Like what is happening, that we are going on the assumption that our exit polls are all right. Where election commission has not given the figures, we are also predicting the election on the basis of what figures we think are right. Yeah. Okay, assuming that they are correct. But my conclusion are two different conclusions. I am not going into merit whether it's right or wrong, because the election commission has not given the figures out. But 3 points are emerging out of this poll very clear. They are directing towards India's victory, correct. But one thing which we have never discussed in this discussion, how many new voters have been added to the voter list? Nobody has given me this data. In the entire discussion, every discussion will take place by young voters who are 8.
So about 2.2% of the voters are between 18 and 19.
And what is their percentage voted?
Yeah, 2.2% of the total.
Let me complete the vote. New voters have also played a very important role, if this is correct. Mahila, of course, have played the role there. And what I have been saying from the beginning, that Jan Swaraj Party is not a party at all in the reckoning. This is what is reflecting here. All of you are playing so much, you will get this, you will get this. If this is
Rashtra, you worked with Prashant Kishore. You said in some ways yes.
Because he has got 5 seats. I don't know whether he'll get those 5 or not.
0 to 5.
Because he was supposed to get into upper caste votes. If he has failed, it means these votes which were supposed to go against NDA. They have not gone to NDA. They have been already there. So the three factors are very clear. New voters are voted, women are voted, and Jan Swaraj Party has not proved to be.
No, but if I look at the vote share, what you're seeing on your screen right now are the seat share numbers. If I look at the vote share, the NDA is projected to get 46.2% of the vote in the People's Pulse data. The Gathbandhan 37.9% of the vote, and the Jan Swaraj 9.5% of the vote. 9.7%, that's not a bad start. 9.7.
And that's also called vote cutter.
Out of 243 seats he contested, yeah, if you collect 5,000.
Okay, then that explains
1 in
it.
10 people in Bihar voting. It may not translate into seats.
I'm just saying
but that's more than what Chirag got in the last election.
That is a
whether
phenomenal
you
performance,
like-
but that also is vote cutter
Whether
for
you
the
like
NGP.
Prashant Kishore or no, the fact is here's a guy without any lineage, come into a difficult state like Bihar, risked everything. Nobody will take him as a poll strategist now because he's lost his own election, put his money on the line. You've got to give the guy a round of applause. He's put his money where his mouth is. You can agree or disagree. Getting
No,
10%
but I
in
think
Bihar
Chabu
is not
Chawla has a
easy.
very strong point, Kanchan Gupta. If he says if at the end you have 0 to 5 to show for what you've got, how much of an applause do you deserve for that?
See, again, let's go back to the last time we were discussing Prashant Kishore's party. The consensus here was that if he hits 8%, he will start grabbing seats from both
Start
sides.
picking up some seats.
But if he's already hit 8% and he comes up with 0 to 5 or 0 to 2, then that means A, he hasn't really hit the 8% marker. B, again, people are now very wise. They will not waste their vote on someone who is not going to win or who doesn't have a fighting chance to win an election.
One of the other big things to look at would be the breakup between the different parties. And if I look at the breakup of the Bharatiya Janata Party, I'm referring to the Matriz data, the BJP is projected to be between 65 to 73, the Janata Dal United between 67 and 75. Veer Sanghvi, that will count for a lot. On counting day, does the JDU come up on top or does the BJP? Who carries the bragging rights that morning?
I think it'll matter. It'll also matter because of the Nitish Kumar factor. What we don't realize, sometimes we don't emphasize enough, is that whatever happens, this election is the end of an era. Nitish Kumar will not lead the alliance into the next election. By the next election, you'll have so many young voters who will have forgotten Lalu. They just will be on his own. It'll work perhaps to his advantage. There won't be all of that jungle raj. So what happens in this new environment? Does the BJP take the lead? Do Nitish's people still say they won? And if they won, how long will it last? How long can Nitish last? How long can his appeal last?
Kanchan Gupta, is it in your view a given that Nitish Kumar, if these numbers hold on the 14th, will be Chief Minister? Or do you think if the BJP comes up on top, they may want to revisit that?
Well, I think the BJP has already made it abundantly clear that there's no vacancy at the top, and Nitish Kumar remains Chief Minister. If the Mahagathbandhan does not form the government and it's the NDA forming the government, we know who's going to be the Chief Minister, and it's Nitish Kumar. So just talking about it doesn't make much sense because the BJP is pretty clear that we are not looking at a vacancy at the top.
The other thing to look at is that the Vikashsheel Insan Party, the Malla Party, the Fisherman Party is projected to get just 1% of the vote and between 2 and 3 seats. So the idea, Amitabh Tiwari, that the Gathbandhan had, that they'd be able to turn this into much more than a Muslim Yadav coalition by getting some of the EBCs like Lalu Yadav used to, that doesn't seem to have materialized in the data that we've seen so far.
Yeah, so as per this poll, so what we have to see is that whenever two parties join hands, while some groups come together, some other groups also wean away from the alliance. The Malla community is seen as an aggressive community in Bihar. Some of the lower EBC caste groups see the Malla community as aggressive. So what may also happen is that you already have an anti-Yadav politics which is happening in Bihar, and now you have added a Malla, which is again seen as very aggressive by the EBC community. So at one point you are trying to woo the lower EBCs, but you have an
Okay, I've just received word that now the third post poll, this is by the print media organization Dainik Bhaskar. They've got stringers on the ground. So this is the data that Dainik Bhaskar has put out. Let's just take the Dainik Bhaskar numbers as well. So this is the third poll that we're looking at. This is from Dainik Bhaskar. Let's take a look and try and understand what Dainik Bhaskar is saying. Coming up on your screen for the first time, the post-poll numbers put out by Dainik Bhaskar. Here it is, breaking news. Right now, Dainik Bhaskar is projecting an NDA win. So the third poll out this evening, once again projecting an NDA victory, 145 to 160 for the NDA, again in the same range as Matriz. They're also projecting that the NDA will win. They're projecting that the Jan Swaraj will do very badly, and just 73 to 91 for the Mahagathbandhan. And they're essentially saying that the Jan Swaraj will win no seat at all. Dainik Bhaskar is the first poll that's saying that the Jan Swaraj will win no seat at all. But the range broadly of the three polls is the same. The direction that's come out first is NDA very comfortably placed. Now it's only a question of the margin of victory on the day of counting. The three polls that are out projecting that the NDA will get well past the 122 mark. Can things change? Are you still hopeful, Tehseen Poonawalla, that maybe these pollsters are wrong? Maybe it's just some grand conspiracy? Or are you resigned to the fact that this is kind of what it looks like?
No, why would it be a conspiracy? I don't believe in conspiracy theories, but I do believe that opinion polls in the past have gone wrong. In 2024, everybody believed the NDA is crossing 400. It did not happen. And there are factors, because if the factor what Kanchan Dada says that that it's not going to get, Prashant Kishore is not getting 8 or 9% vote, and Chetan calls that a vote katwa, then that 8-9% is coming to us. If Prabhu sir says there's 15 lakh new voters, I don't see why they should vote Nitish ji. So I do believe then those votes that have been attributed to others could come to us, and it could be a closer fight. I do believe that.
It could also, Chetan, be a morning which settles very quickly if this is how it seems.
It will, like, yeah, could be very boring. But it's just the way it is. But
you're finding an NDA victory boring? I don't think people in the BJP will like that very much.
No, it's not like that. It's just that they always win. It's like, even if India keeps winning in cricket, it will ultimately get boring, right? So it will be fun for NDA, but for the people like us who are...
You watch what you are saying. You want India to lose.
I don't want India to lose. We want India to have a good fight. When you play cricket, who wants to see a cricket match in which in 10 overs it's decided?
No, you can't see this.
Ashok Malik, Chetan Bhagat is saying that an NDA victory to him looks very boring. The fact
because
is,
it's what happens all the time.
Speak to any politician who sweated it out
they make it look easy. However, I think what has happened is, you said 9% vote share for JSP, which is incredible. The BJP,
in one of the polls.
Yeah, but the BJP should send a nice gift hamper to Prashant Kishore, because even if there was anti-incumbency, some of it went to Prashant Kishore, because his whole brand was everything new in Bihar, everybody is like in trends, sab mile hue hain ji. The same version here, and then you see the votes.
But what's Dainik giving?
If NDA gets more votes than it was last time, there's no NDA. Then they vote. Whose votes have gone? It means
but
RTD votes have gone. Don't go into the
person who has voted for Prashant voted for one of those two last time.
Yeah,
right.
That's true.
What were they more likely to vote for?
But if NDA gets the same number,
no. But the point also to remember is about 25% are others as well. So it's not like they voted just for one of the two.
We'll have to say round Rahul.
Others as well.
He's got the
Ashok Malik,
not the RTD.
you know, they're making a habit of winning, and Chetan Bhagat's not finding that very exciting.
Of course, from a watching, like, if you do you want to see a boxing match?
इतना दूर से आया हूँ बॉम्बे से यार, ये तो मैच ही 10 मिनट खत्म हो गया.
आप मेरे को एक बात बताइए, you want to see a boxing match with knockout?
JSP?
All the time there's a knockout, because that's what is happening.
Okay, let Ashok respond to that.
More seriously, no election result is boring, irrespective of what happens. Every election result leads to some sort of a message from the electorate. There are two things here. One, frankly, whether Prashant Kishore takes 9% or 3% is less relevant if these indeed are the results. It means that the Chirag Paswan, Nitish Kumar, BJP alliance has worked perfectly, if these numbers are correct. I think that is also a factor. Chirag Paswan coming into the NDA fold, and it has obviously worked perfectly if indeed these are the numbers. I would like to know, again, if possible, from these opinion polls, what the seat divide is, if there's any indication.
No, we have some regional breakup. We'll do that in a moment. But Amitabh Tiwari, would you say that it's safe to declare that the direction is very clear? The margins may change. So maybe, somebody picked the margin right and somebody didn't. But the fact that the NDA is comfortably in the lead and the Gathbandhan is unlikely to come to power, that seems to be quite clear at the moment.
I'll answer it in another manner. If Mahagathbandhan wins, it does not have the stamina to cross 125 seats. It does not have the stamina. If NDA wins, the bottom starts at 125.
No, you are also Arshif. How
अरे भाई,
What did you swing in two different
अरे
directions?
भाई हमारा तो अभी डेटा ही नहीं आया है तो हम कैसे
So you're saying NDA has the edge?
नहीं, इनके first phase का data है. Give us. Are you suggesting that your data is different from what we are seeing so far?
Phase 1 is pretty close. I mean, not very.
That's what you're saying.
Skewed in that sense.
No, but remember in the first phase, the RJD in 2020 had a very big lead. So if phase 1 is close and phase 2 is clear, then again the direction is set. Okay, so what I'm going to do is slip into a break.
Rahul, can I just quickly
Yes,
make
sir.
one point? You know, if we take that there are 15 lakh first-time voters, how many of them would have voted for Prashant Kishore? So if it's a bulk of them who have voted for Prashant Kishore and his thing of a shining Bihar, new Bihar, baggage out, all virtues in, so that would mean neither of the two main alliances would have benefited from the first-time voter. And that vote would have actually gone to waste.
I make a point. One
Yes,
simple
please.
point. You're saying 48% NDA already. And this NDA is now in 2025 different than NDA in 2020. At that time, they were not together. So you have to come into the picture. If 48% they're getting according to your projection, it means the votes which have gone to NDA, they are from the Gathbandhan. Because their votes must have come down because of that. So Prashant Kumar has not been able to take away any NDA vote. He has either taken Mahagathbandhan vote. The
No, it
total loss
also
of votes-
shows.
How can he, if he's taking Mahagathbandhan, is Sir suggesting he's taking Muslim votes? I don't think so, sir.
No,
Because
I'm
the
not-
percentage
no,
going
but
up in
I'm
the
just going
It's
by
the
what
point
they
that
should-
Ashok Malik
I'm
made,
going by what they're
Veer, that
showing.
it's so much
I
about
don't have
caste
a-
that if you've got the Paswans, you've got the EBCs with Nitish Kumar, you've got the upper caste and the others who support the BJP, it's way too formidable a team given what they were up against.
Absolutely. And I think the point about Prashant Kishore is you've never had somebody who's a complete outsider come in and make any kind of significant impact. People talk about NTR, but he was already a big star. People talk about Kejriwal, but he emerged out of the sort of hilariously, ironically named India Against Corruption movement. So this guy has come out of nowhere. So it's difficult to expect him to have any kind of success. The only way he could have success if there's strong anti-incumbency and it's a protest vote and people don't want to vote for anybody who's been there before, they want to vote for somebody new. All the evidence suggests that they might be wary of Nitish, but there isn't a lot of anti-incumbency.
Chetan Bhagat, when I spoke to Prashant Kishore in Patna and in Muzaffarpur, his big hope was that youths and migrants will form a vote bank cutting beyond caste. If this exit poll data holds true on the 14th, it's quite clear that that hasn't happened.
Well, even it's 5%, 10%, he's there to stay. I mean, that's...
We don't know that.
And if MGP...
We don't know that.
if
Lasting
Tejasvi
it out
has
in a
not
state
worked-
like Bihar, A, is expensive and B, it's very tough.
I agree, but looks like Lalu's family is not as... If this results hold, that means Lalu's family is not as popular as what it takes to be the winner, and Bihar needs their local alternative. He could be the next guy. I know it's a very different example, but in Pakistan, Imran Khan had 1% vote share in his first election, and 1%.
Do you want close cricket matches you're comparing to Pakistan?
just discussing
What are you
data.
doing on TV?
He's saying
But
that the polls are looking very unidirectional. I want to spice
I'm just
this
having fun
discussion
with
up.
I'm just saying
Now
it
you
was
must make
1%
clear
and he
if
came.
these are correct.
So,
This is the analysis.
Of course.
No, I...
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Because
It's a
today
carrot.
after tomorrow,
5-10, it's not a joke. 5-10% vote share is not a joke.
State like-
How much was Congress's vote share in UP? You know, just check.
No,
it
but
was
the Congress
5%.
fought with the
Yeah,
Congress
so-
fought with the Samajwadi Party. That's
I know,
very
I know.
different from the
But
Congress
he also
fighting
has
alone.
no-
I have one more poll that's just come out. This is JVC. As I said, Amitabh Tiwari, Yashwant Deshmukh and Pradeep Gupta, and Pradeep will be joining us in just a moment. They've held their post-poll results back till tomorrow. So this is JVC. We'll show you what JVC is saying as well. 3 polls so far suggesting a very clear lead for the National Democratic Alliance of Nemo, Narendra Modi and Nitish Kumar. JVC also projects 135 to 150 for the NDA. Gathbandhan 88 to 133. This is slightly more conservative than some of the polls that we've seen, but the direction again very clear. It starts at 135 when compared to 122 being the majority figure. So the 4th poll that we're seeing this evening, once again suggesting a comfortable lead for the National Democratic Alliance. It also is the magic of Nitish Kumar. The fact that there should be some level, Veer Sangvi, of anti-incumbency against him, but despite being in power for 2 decades, people think he hasn't done us wrong and they still seem to think one last election for Nitish Chacha, and that's what these numbers at least are suggesting.
I think there is an element of magic because if you look at the figures, economic development, unemployment, etc., Bihar lags behind the rest of India per capita income. Nitish has been in charge for so long. Obviously, people should blame him. The interesting thing is they don't. They're wary of him. There's a certain degree of exhaustion, but there's no blaming. There's no anti-incumbency. It defies logic, but there it is.
Prabhu Chawla, what do you make of it? The fact that, there are issues with his mental and physical capacity. In other countries, this may have been a knockout blow. Here, it creates sympathy rather than being something you want to pin down on that politician.
Well, I want to first clear it because rider is that if this poll turns out to be correct.
Oh, of course, of
I'm
course.
just supporting the poll.
Commentary is based on what you see on the screen. What you see on the screen changes, the commentary changes as well.
Have come in this India because almost more than dozen. Everybody does want to do it. Anti-incumbency, if you go empirical data, it very clearly proves if there is an anti-incumbency vote, if a higher turnout, in 65% cases the state government has lost. Except in Bihar, which is a higher turnout, where 60% chances of becoming the ruling party coming back. Bihar is exception, yes, that's true. But 60% because the Gathbandhan have been changing, where alliances. Therefore, when there is a higher turnout, this is going to be against the government. That is a general conception. From say 1952.
No, but there is enough empirical evidence in the country as well.
If you look at Haryana, Haryana had higher turnout.
That can be part of 35%. Na? There are 35% repetition. I am talking about 65% against. Haryana can be part of that. Anyway, let us not go into it. But you are absolutely right. People are voting. Maybe a sympathy vote for him. They are going to vote for him because they are.
Is the poorest
let me complete. Ultimately, what seems. MY factor. For example, there is a total consolidation of all other castes, if that is correct, against MY. Nobody else has voted for MY other than the Muslims and Yadav. That is what comes out of it. Such a massive turnout and such a massive mandate for Nitish Kumar means that Lalu Yadav has lost the support of every other caste.
Chetan Bhagat, it's a very uniquely Asian or Indian phenomena. In Europe and in the United States, we've seen if the physical health and the mental capacity of a leader is seen as deteriorating, it can be a knockout blow. Here, they look up to an elder with respect, and it actually became on the ground as we traveled.
Here they get married without checking with their parents. Here, without parents, you can't get married. So we are very different people. I think badon ka aadar karna, respect karna, it's a big thing here. And it's the poorest state in India, lowest per capita income. It's the poorest state in India, and still people are happy with the government.
Because people compare with 1990 to 2005 and not
really. There are a lot
with
of young people
Bihar
who haven't
versus
seen,
others.
There are a lot of young people as well, and you were traveling together in Bihar who haven't seen what happened during the Lalu era.
See, what happens is that the young voting population is lower, young population is higher, but 0 to 18 do not vote. So 18 to 29, only 25% voting population. So above 30 who have seen or have memory of Jungle Raj is 75% of voting population.
I want to go across to Ankit Tyagi. He's been crisscrossing the state of Bihar over the past several weeks, tracking the sentiment of voters on the ground. Ankit, is this the sentiment you picked up during your travels as well? All the three polls that we've seen so far showing the NDA very comfortably placed.
You know, Rahul, I thought this election is more complex and more close than that. It's a non-linear election. It's not that something that you hear across the election. There is no one pan-Bihar, campaign which is working. One thing is clear that there was no electric sort of a current either to throw out Nitish Kumar. It was more anti-incumbency in 2020. And it was also not like a current to bring Tejasvi Yadav. I thought this election was more seat by seat. People were talking more about their local MLA. Then they were talking about who should be the chief minister, at least at the places that I went to. But one thing is very, very clear that all those who were thinking that Nitish Kumar and also the BJP, that Nitish Kumar could be a baggage, he actually is a big plus as far as this Gathbandhan is concerned. And it comes from, you talk to people, they don't want to give him a bad send-off. People keep saying that, he has done so much for Bihar. We don't want to give him a bad send-off. They do realize that it is the last inning that he is playing. And also, it's remarkable that in 20 years, even if we have switched sides, there is no personal corruption charge on Nitish Kumar. He has not not done the religious polarization, Hindu-Muslim politics, and he has also been seen as somebody who has gotten Vikas, is not a dynast in that sense, his son. That is why, despite everybody talking about his son coming into politics, it's not that Nitish Kumar did that deliberately. People say it was not done deliberately because it would have signaled, A, Nitish Kumar is incapacitated, and other, the dynast charge would have come to him. So I feel this election would be closer than what most of these surveys are.
I want to go across to Pradeep Gupta. Pradeep Gupta, as our viewers know well, runs Access My India. A lot of people on exit poll day look out for Pradeep ji's numbers. Pradeep ji, आप तो हैं यहाँ, number कहाँ हैं?
का सर कल तक थोड़ा इंतजार कीजिए, एक्सेस माई इंडिया के नंबर के लिए थोड़ी सी और मेहनत कर लेते हैं, कोशिश करेंगे कि नतीजों के करीब आने की जितना ज्यादा हो सके.
I spoke to you earlier during the week. You were in Bihar doing some polling yourself, and we've traveled together. You like to go out on the field to get a sense of what the sentiment on the ground is. Without giving your numbers away, can you, on the basis of your travels and the interviews that you conducted with the different respondents that you spoke to, give our viewers a sense of what you picked up? What defines, or what do you think will define this election, Pradeep Gupta?
As I mentioned earlier, Rahul, and I witnessed the same thing on the ground, which is the caste is going to be major, going to play the major role in the fate of the outcome of the election of Bihar. So caste is clearly the clincher. Again, I would say the Dalits and the Malla. These 20% combination, about 20 to 20% combination, whoever get the edge will win the Bihar election. This is one thing for sure. The second thing is that this time, because in last 3 to 4 Bihar assembly elections, generally election took place during Dussehra and Diwali, meaning before Diwali it concluded in all 3 elections in last 3 terms. But this time it is post Diwali, meaning Chhath Puja. When it comes to the Chhath Puja in Bihar, particularly youth or the migrated worker or whoever is migrated, they come back to Bihar for Chhath Puja, and this time they've been there, and you can witness this turning out to be in election total massive turnout, the historical turnout. Of course, about 6% is because of the SIR purification. 28 lakhs people have been deceased, and about 28 lakhs has been permanently migrated. This 48 lakhs, if you convert into the real voter percentage, it is 6.25% when it comes to the electors. So now this, in most of the cases, the Bihar turnout has been in the 56 to 57 percentage points. This time it is exceeding 65, both the faces together exceeding 65. That 6 to 7% incremental out of purification, and that 3 to 4% added, which is going to again a deciding factor in this election as well. Now coming to the governance, which is the case always, whoever wins is purely wins on the governance, and particularly when the government gets repeat, if it is at all it is getting repeated, then it's a pure of the governance. No,
but there's a larger point here, Veer Sanghvi. In a state like Rajasthan, people like to turn the roti over every 5 years. In a state like Orissa and in a state like Bihar, they seem reasonably content. As I traveled through Simanchal and other places, with their modest means, they're okay. They're not angry and yearning for more for some reason.
Roti turns itself. Nitish turns.
But Orissa, eventually, people did get tired of Naveen Patnaik. That doesn't seem to happen in Bihar. I mean, I'll give you 2 parallels. One is Nitish and Narendra Modi. Nitish has been chief minister, longer than Narendra Modi has been prime minister. Narendra Modi is an exceptionally popular leader, but he constantly feels the need to deliver, keep saying, I've done this, I've done that, India's grown under me. Look at Biden, the other parallel, who I think from most accounts is probably in better shape mentally and physically than Nitish Kumar. Yet they got rid of it because they said he was too old, he'd been around too long, they wanted a fresh face. In Bihar, that doesn't seem to matter. Nobody gets tired of Nitish. even if there is a huge turnout as there is.
No, but
it
let's
isn't
spend some time
anti-incumbent.
with Pradeep Gupta on the issue that we raises about the huge turnout. Veer Sangvi made the point that turnout has skyrocketed. You said the same thing, Pradeep. What do you attribute it to? Is it because of this extra mobilization that we're seeing? One theory is people are scared that their names will be struck off next time if they don't vote this time. Second is Chhat, migrants coming, staying back. Third is Prashant Kishore mobilizing. What do you attribute the highest ever turnout that Bihar has seen since independence to?
One is the purification, and two is the festival time, and three is these, both the Gadbandhan and all the political parties had made sure this time they made sure at local level, whoever is come is been well taken care of this time, well taken care. Believe me or not, they have made sure their reservation, their full paid journey to and fro, and their looking after hospitality, so this is what this time makes all the difference.
Surge in voter turnout. The other issue to look at, and we'll have data from Pradeep Gupta, Yashwant Deshmukh, Amitabh Tiwari tomorrow. But till then, from the data sets that I have, I did a quick cross tab of the gender vote. Okay, so I'll take the People's Pulse data first. Now look at this. And ladies and gentlemen, this is phenomenal. This is nothing less than remarkable. 45.8% men voted for the NDA. Amongst women, 66.8% said they voted NDA. That's a 20% gap in favor of the NDA amongst women versus men. That is just phenomenal in terms of the ability to make it happen. You're seeing this for the first time on NDTV. Look now at the second row. This is the Gadbandhan. Here, 38.2% of the men said they voted for the Gadbandhan, the India Alliance, and 24.8% said they voted for the Gadbandhan amongst the women. That's a 14% deficit. If you just look at the men, the gap is only about 7%, 38 versus 45. It's an election very clearly in favor of the NDA, but the gap is only 7%. If you look amongst women, the gap is 22%. That is remarkable, Shubhrashtra. 22% gap amongst the women in favor of the NDA. That's the election right there. We didn't need to go jump into a Makhana pond and do everything else that we did. Just speak to the women and say that Nitish is winning.
Rahul, I have a very, perhaps a different take on it as a woman myself. You know, we want to believe that, parties have become so gender sensitive that they're trying to woo women voters. It's not the case. In Bihar, and we have all discussed it ad nauseum, caste networks and trust factor works so much. Caste is really hard-coded into the DNA of Bihar like any other state. And Bihar will not trust any ideas experiment even
No,
in
but this
case
is
of gender.
beyond caste. No, I'm sorry. 45% you can say is caste because men are there. Between 45 and 66, that 11% extra is beyond caste.
But
21%.
Rahul, are we then to believe that the Muslim women who are standing in burqas are going to vote for BJP just because?
Or it could be some of the RJD Congress supporters. It's very clearly the data.
I'm not discounting the power of women voters. What I'm saying is, let's understand that every voter is a cross section of many identities. We will never be able to decode it in front of, numerically in front of all the exit polls that are coming in. But it is important to understand that this whole gender narrative, which is being built around Nitish Kumar, also has its own limitations. Women are being wooed because the other equations with EBC and OBCs, etc., are also not that regimented. If Nitish ji was completely okay with Kurmi Koiris voting for him, some Yadavs voting for him, and EBC, as he remarked famously in, maybe a decade back, that he's going to, he used the term Hindi and say कि वो हम साथ लेंगे EBCs को. If all of these were okay, why would he go out and woo women voters?
Okay, so let me put that question to Pradeep Gupta. Pradeep, 22% gap, is this typical? I know your data is not out yet, but when you spoke to women, is this what you picked up as well? Almost 7 out of 10 women in this poll are saying that they voted for the NDA. That's remarkable.
Rahul, though I should not be commenting on, all these polls, they are all friends, they do a good job. But looking at this number, 45, meaning 46 you take to NDA among men and women about 66, the net vote share for the NDA comes to 56%, and for the Mahagathbandhan it is coming to 31%. Now I'll tell you, during Lok Sabha election in 19, NDA won 39 seats out of 40 seats. The assembly segment, it should have been turned into 223 seats. 223 seats, whereas people's poll showing some, they take their higher range also, I don't know, I can't see, but it is exceeding to 150 or 155, something like that. I mean, this is not possible. Let me tell you. I don't want to comment on these figures for sure.
Rahul, the aggregate vote shares they have given was 45%. The aggregate they had given was 45 and 38. But
No, so then he
if you take
factors
an
it
average
down.
of the men and women, assuming same gender, 1:1 ratio,
No, women vote in larger numbers.
still, it cannot justify. It sounds like a 55% vote share for NDA if you just average out the men and women. And that's somewhere.
But you don't know how many women voted.
There's a question.
I mean, it can't be.
No, anyway, so that's fine.
Rahul, one question
Pradeep
which
Gupta
has-
is making a fair
Rahul, one
point, and I
question.
think we'll wait for his data to come out. But for what it is worth, this is People's Pulse. I'll just show Matriz as well, the same data set for women, and then Prabhu Chawla will comment on that. This is Matriz, the breakup of gender votes, men versus women, NDA versus MGB for women. Here as well, the Gathbandhan is shown at 36 and 27. So the same point that Pradeep makes. NDA is shown at 52 and 65. 65% of the women, according to the Matriz poll, voted for the NDA. Only 27% of the women voted for the Gathbandhan. That is almost 30% gap. That again is phenomenal. A very, very big leap.
Rahul?
Prabhu? Yes, Prabhu.
Seems too big.
Yes, sure.
Ask one question because I'm not. 65% of women have voted for NDA of the total women elected. I would like to know the total percentage of votes are there. How many women are there? If 65% have voted of the total mass of women voters, it means about 75% women voters have voted for NDA. Are you believing that? Just work out the absolute terms. The total number of votes are 6 crore or 6.5 crores. Out of that,
Yeah, that's what
Yeah, and I
they're saying.
want to add
3
to
out
that,
of
and I
4
just
women.
want to- and I
They're
just
saying
want to
3
add to
out
that.
of 4 women are voted for NDA.
how can you
Yes.
believe
Or 6 out of 10.
And how many are
That's what the data is saying.
How many are Muslim? How many are
Which
Yadav
then comes-
women?
Which then comes that if the 36% for the MGB,
I just can't believe
in the men are roughly
3 out of 4
Muslim
women
and
have voted for
Yadav, and
NDA.
that
So the
drops-
liquor
and that
thing-
drops to
No,
what?
no,
no. No,
That drops to
there are
27.
Yadav women, there are
Yeah,
Muslim
so
women.
the Yadav women voted for Nitish ji.
Yes.
Okay,
And the
so
Muslim
let me,
women,
that's a
the
very
question
good
I'm
point that Prabhu Chawla makes, and I want to put that to Pradeep Gupta
ask them
because
now, the people
it
who have done the
illustrates the
voting.
point that Pradeep was making as well, that there may be a skew, it may not be so much. Did you pick up a pro one party sentiment amongst women when you traveled across Bihar, or do you think, as Shubhrashtra was arguing earlier, that the reality is far more complicated?
See, that's, believe it or not, Bihar votes, 90% of the voter base vote based on their caste alignment. Now coming to Bihar, 32% is MY, which is Muslim and Yadav put together. Among the Muslim and Yadavs, I don't see there is a deviation as far as the voting preference is concerned vis-a-vis their male member of not a single percent doubt. Now coming to the other than Muslim and Yadavs, I can tell you this much at least, NDA has slender age over their male member. This much I can, slender age. I cannot say that, I mean, this number, so anyway, you will see this, just mark my word for the voting day. The real voting percentage, if you can show, that would be better, how much they are projecting. You have shown the bifurcation, but show the share number. It's turning out to be 58%. And let me tell you one more thing in Bihar, though women turnout has been higher among women itself, but in real number, the number of women voter is less than their male, few lakhs less than their male members. So in sheer number, it has never been the case. I will tell you, the last time, I have got the number, last time also, few lakhs lesser number of women has voted, meaning it is turning out, whatever 100 vote is there, it by and large 50% in that sense. Little lesser for women there. So this number, I cannot believe this number, and I don't want to comment on these numbers.
Let us put out the number of women electors there. Yeah, it's a published.
Yeah, I'll tell you.
How many women electors are
Maybe
there on the voter list?
extent is too much, but
I'll
maybe
tell you,
like
I'll
that
tell
liquor
you.
policy, which I think clearly.
No, but Pradeep is saying the margin is not so much. The gap in favor in his poll, and we'll see that tomorrow, the gap in favor of the NDA is not so much. He wants to answer Prabhu's question, so I'm going to let Pradeep do
I'll
that.
tell you. In 2025, 1 crore 94 lakhs. So 1.95 crore is male elector and female 1.73 crore. 1.7 meaning sheer 20 lakhs lesser number of female in Bihar.
How is this,
It is
Pradeep,
important.
election different or similar to what we've seen after the Lok Sabha elections? Haryana, Maharashtra, Jharkhand, the other states that we've seen after the Lok Sabha election of 2024, in what ways is Bihar similar and in what ways is it dissimilar?
See, Jharkhand is all, see, you'll have to see the majority representation of a particular demography. In case of Jharkhand, it is 1/3 the tribals. 1/3 is the tribal. They are going to be the decisive factor. In Haryana, Jats are the case. In Bihar, though MY has the 1/3, almost 1/3 of the population, but here the point here is that none of the leader from the other community other than MY, just the Malla community recently, then that too Mukesh Sahni has been switching the side, and that too belonging of about 4% in the fold of Mahagathbandhan. Somehow in last 2 to 3 elections, of course 2015 was a different case altogether because Nitish Kumar was this side. None of the leader in the fold of Mahagathbandhan. सबसे बड़ी समस्या जो है महागठबंधन के साथ वो ये है. So this is the reason why this is different than.
अच्छा ठीक है. You are saying you don't want to comment on other people's poll. ये बताओ जाने से पहले कि आपका poll कितने बजे आएगा कल?
5:30 onwards we will start releasing our.
Okay, so we look forward to seeing you at 5:30 p.m. then tomorrow. Thank you very much, Pradeep Gupta, for joining us. And we look forward to seeing what your assessment, which comes one day after the second phase of polling, is actually going to look like. Thank you very much for joining us in NDTV.
Thank you, Rahul.
Rajan Pandey now joins us. He's with People's Pulse. I'll show you the People's Pulse data. It's on your screen right now. 133 to 159 for the NDA. Gathbandhan at 75 to 101. The Jan Swaraj Party of Prashant Kishore between 0 and 5. This is People's Pulse. Pollster Rajan Pandey now joins our poll team. Mr. Pandey, welcome. Can you explain to those watching on NDTV what you picked up during your poll on the ground and how have you come to this assessment that the NDA seems comfortably placed to form the government once again in Bihar?
See, for the first, I would like to say that this election is very different from the past elections that happened in, I should say, last 20 years. Now, if we compare it in terms of various indicators, let's say issues. So 2005 was a vote for change. Nitish Kumar was coming resurgent. 2010 was the vote for continuity of that change. And then 2015 was a very different election. It was an election when a resurgent BJP, which had triumphed nationally on the political landscape, was vis-a-vis Lalu Prasad and Nitish Kumar, who had been political force since a very long time. And then 2020, again, there was a lot of talk of jobs, a lot of talk of employment, performance of Tejaswi Yadav, a new RJD, a new Lalten, and all those things. Suddenly, this time, what we are seeing is a repetition of a lot of old things. For example, the primary campaign, the Jungle Raj campaign, is actually something which is almost 20 years old. And the jobs things, because in 2020 it was quite new, but in last 5 years there have been recruitments and other things. So this time I witnessed that the traction that Tejaswi Yadav had among the youth in 2020 election is not there. The kind of
what does this also say, Veer, about the likes of a Tejaswi Yadav? Yeah. You know, it really seemed that 2020 was his big opportunity which slipped out of his hand, and here, instead of his profile growing over the last 5 years, it seems to have diminished.
Yeah, all logic suggests that he should have done better this time. There are fewer memories of Lalu, of Jungle Raj. He's had time to build up things. Young people have joined the electorate. They should vote for him. the failure is actually quite astonishing if these figures hold, etc., etc.
Chetan Bhagat, from the opposition's perspective.
Because people had Prashant Kishore also competing for that same position, younger, fresher, newer alternative. There has to be some...
Did Prashant Kishore, you think, Shubhrashtra, make someone like Tejasvi feel inferior? Because for the young aspirational voter, that's the kind of aspiration they have. Young, educated, travelled, successful professional, rather than someone who's a dynast.
So, of course, there's a difference between a first-time businessman or a politician and somebody who inherits it. Of course, the hunger that Prashant would have is a hunger that will be missing in most of the second-generation politicians. More than that, I think one of the mistakes that, or perhaps the problems that Tejasvi faced was internal home dynamics. It is very difficult for a younger son to sort of claim the throne when you have a, elder brother
was thrown out. So what's the problem?
But he's an irritant. He's an irritant.
But you can't blame Tej Pratap for where Tejasvi is at.
Yeah.
I want to ask Rajan Pandey.
Add something.
One second, Mr. Pandey, tell us what does your poll show about the performance of Prashant Kishore beyond just the headline numbers? What does it show on the ground about the kind of people, the kind of voters who voted for PK?
See, PK, we should look not... if we are evaluating PK, we should not evaluate PK on the basis of the vote percentage of the seats that he's getting at the end of everything. We should also see the trajectory of the whole thing. The Jan Swaraj has been doing a lot of things. And in terms of, now this is also very remarkable, in terms of the expenses that Jan Swaraj made, it should come into top 3. I mean, so much money they have spent. They have a very well-oiled organizational infrastructure, and there are branded cars, posters, rallies, everything with a very professional edge. But the momentum, and in fact, if you look at the issues, it's the PK's issues who are the most hit in Bihar. He is a guy who actually popularized this conception of some of the leaders who have criminal cases. He's the guy who has brought back the issue of employment and migration and things like that. And then when the iron is hot and you should hit it, at that very point of time, we see PK somewhere, just not giving his 100%. So that's quite surprising to me, because in Mokama...
You're suggesting that dal mein kuch kala hai. Do you think, Chetan, it will appear like that he built it up in a certain fashion, raised it to a tempo which seemed to be building to a crescendo, and then just kind of...
Well, there's all these conspiracy theories. Internet has nothing to do. So there's this B team, BJP theories going on. It may look like that, but I don't think so. I think he definitely wants to make a change in Bihar and wants to come up with this alternative. RJD will get some votes from its base, right? Muslim Yadav will vote for that. How much is the Tejasvi vote? And can Prashant Kishore, I think it's not 10%, but Prashant Kishore seems to be pulling 8 to 10%, and just pure Tejasvi vote is not there.
Ashok Malik, I think Chetan makes Chetan makes an important point, that what is the incremental vote? If he hopes to be Chief Minister at some point in time, Tejasvi Yadav needs to land the Tejasvi bump to the Gathbandhan ticket.
There are two challenges before Tejasvi. One, if these numbers are correct, it's fairly clear that like in the previous elections, he's maximized the Muslim Yadav vote, which is a core vote which more or less stays with the RJD, but there's an inability to grow beyond it. The second factor one needs to consider is that, again, if these numbers are correct, he is taking on Nitish at Nitish's, if not his peak, he's still very popular. Do remember that there was a whole series of very talented politicians in Gujarat, for instance. Bharat Singh Solanki was a very good politician in Gujarat. In normal times, he would have become Chief Minister. He just happened to coincide with the Modi 1.5 decades. So sometimes it just becomes difficult to take on a larger-than-life Chief Minister who is riding a crest for over a decade.
Okay, yes.
In my opinion, as somebody who's seen Tejasvi closely, I think Lalu Prasad Yadav ji is Tejasvi's both greatest strength and his worst weakness. Why I say this, and I say this with responsibility, is the 35-36% he's getting is essentially Laluji's vote. But the ability to transcend that 35-36% is also due to Laluji, because none of the other castes want to come because they are scared of that Yadav domination. So he has both the strength of Laluji and a weakness, and therefore he's not been able to create a Tejasvi vote bank. Therefore, as you rightly said, becoming the Chief Minister. In Prashant Kishore's case, I see it a little differently. A lot of comparisons are made with Arvind Kejriwal. I actually compare him with two very different people, Kashi Ram and Bal Thackeray. The reason is both Kashi Ram and Bal Thackeray were born not out of movements, but started their own political parties. They didn't come in when there was a movement against something. NTR, Arvind Kejriwal all came when there was a movement, even the AGP in Assam. It is actually Prashant Kishore who started an organization, a political organization, where he believes there's a vacuum like Bal Thackeray or Kashi Ram believe. And I do believe if he stays the course, if, that's a big if, he will have a future in Bihar.
No, but he's also Kanchan Gupta up against the BJP. Can he last it out for 5 years?
Bal Thackeray emerged from a movement.
Of course he did.
From an agitation, from
Very much.
the fact. I mean, to say that
I never forgot my fact. One second. The anti, when there was the anti,
Let
when there was the
Kanchan Das speak. You made a point,
movement,
let Kanchan Das
Congress
speak.
was leading it.
Let Kanchan
no,
Das.
anyway, forget it. I mean, the
Congress was
point is two things over here. You're saying that people in Orissa, Bihar, they really don't particularly look for change and they're quite happy with things. You have to understand the political culture of every state across the country is not the same. Bihar, West Bengal, Orissa, even Assam, till BJP went and sort of shook up things over there, they are quite happy with the status quo. They don't want surprises. Let me put it this way. Number two, in Bihar's case, caste is ironclad. I mean, you cannot smash through it beyond a point. To say that this transcends caste and that, no, it doesn't. And lastly, I think somebody here, I think Amitabh made the point that people still have memories of Lalu's years. And that the segment which is new and fresh on the block, they are not the determining vote. It's the in-between age group which is the determining vote.
But that's the point Subhrashtra made earlier as well. And Pradeep Gupta made that point that the bulk of voters, he's saying almost 8 out of 10, vote purely on the basis of their caste. I mean, that's the primary factor for them.
Sorry.
Because I'll again bring the same points. Those who are thinking this Prashant Kishore is going very well, they are assuming that Bihar is coming out of the caste board. That's what the assumption is. And he is Pandey, he forgets that. If he's Pandey, as far as Pandey is leading a party, he can't make any inroads in that system. But somehow we are trying to justify what we feel is happening in the state. But that is not what is happening, because you are going to, and number two, you are undermining Tejasvi, because that party for the last 30 years still remains the number one party in terms of number of seats. Votes have not gone down. It has gone down because of combination.
But this poll is, all these three polls are saying they've gone down.
No, all these three polls are 1%, 2% maximum. And total, because the data is somehow, I suspect the data, because number of women, they may have projected, then the whole data has to be looked into. I don't want to comment on that, because day after tomorrow when we speak of the actual result, we have to speak differently. The results are different. So I don't want to comment on that. But we must keep in this mind that whatever we are showing, assume it is correct. It reflects too many things, because they are voting for the government after 20 years. That is one bigger surprise in the entire electoral. If you go empirical study, this is surprise, the exception which is happening here. And you are voting on for a person who doesn't seem to be fully control of the state. And number two, if this is right, there is another mark which is coming. Who is the number one party? Because whether BJP becomes lower than JDU, that is what it looks like in the poll.
Subhrashtra.
There have been a lot of missed opportunities for Tejasvi. If he really wanted to incrementally vote RJD share, he actually said it in one of his local sabhas that don't judge me by what my father did. If he would have made it a state narrative and ensured that he was there with the students, for instance, when they were protesting, if he was there with during the university elections, he could have wore those fantastic different shaded t-shirts and gone there. But the point is, Rahul, that all these leaders, also his family dynamics, when we talk about his family dynamics, there's a lot of chatter between the Yadav youth population also with respect to the whole Halloween.
So let me put that question to Pradeep Gupta about Prashant Kishore versus Tejasvi. Do you think, what did you make while you were traveling, Pradeep, about the Prashant Kishore factor and the kind of impact you saw on the ground? And how did he compare as an opposition face versus the likes of Tejasvi Yadav?
People was to contribute in a winning cause, and they can clearly see this time that Prashant Kishore is unlikely to form the government. So they have shifted to Tejasvi Prasad Yadav in bulk among the youth, which was supposed to be, Prashant Kishore's demography in that sense. So Tejasvi Yadav is a clear-cut winner
Then
among
what did you
the
make
youth.
of Tejaswi's campaign? And why do you think he hasn't been able to, from what we can see on the surface, able to emerge as a more potent opponent than what he was able to in the past few months?
So it's not about Tejasvi, as I mentioned earlier. It's all about the caste arithmetic at play in Bihar. Because beyond MY, you have to have somebody, sizable in terms of numbers to win the Bihar. I mean,
So
that
did
much I'm
the
looking at
VIP
this
plan trying to get the Mallas on board with the Muslim Yadav, did that work?
4%, Rahul. That to 4. And secondly, the decision making as a Gadbandhan as a whole, वहाँ मैच चालू हो गया, आपकी टीम में डिसाइड नहीं हुई कि कौन प्लेयर खेलने वाला है. How? I mean, आप पब्लिक को कम्युनिकेट होने में भाई समय लगता है कि इस सीट के ऊपर कौन है. आप 12 फ्रेंडली फाइट पे लड़ रहे हैं, ऊपर से जो उनके भाई है तेज प्रताप, वो एक अलग अपनी पार्टी, छोटी पार्टी बना के कर रहे हैं. तो ये सारी चीजें बजाय वोटों के जुड़ने का, ये सारी चीजें जो है फ्रेंडली फाइट वो कहते हैं, मैं तो उसको सोसाइडल फाइट कहता हूँ. वो किस हिसाब से फ्रेंडली फाइट बोलते हैं मुझे आज तक समझ में नहीं आया. वोटर के सामने तो मशीन दिख रही है और मशीन में 2 सिंबल दिख रहे हैं, उसमें से उसको एक सिलेक्ट करना है.
That's a good point you make. Sangvi calls it a suicidal fact. Given that they're in opposition and they have everything to win and nothing to lose, why can't they sort out something as basic and important as seat sharing well before polling day?
I think that's a pretty constant malaise with India's opposition. They go in there fighting with each other, and by the time it comes to fight the election, they've already fought themselves out. So yes, I think he's absolutely right. It was suicidal. But another point, which I think is worth making, is when you're talking about Tejaswi, is that he offered nothing new. He offered the same things, jobs, etc., help for the migrants that people have always offered.
What else could he have offered?
That's my point. That when we talk about Bal Thackeray, for instance, he offered Maharashtrian pride. Whenever Arvind Kejriwal offered an anti-corruption slogan, whenever anybody beats somebody, they have to say, we will do something better. Prashant Kishore tried. I don't think he had the credibility or the base yet to make something of it. But Bihar on the whole...
Can PK last for 5 years, you think?
That's up to him. It's a tough thing, to continue doing this for 5 years, having done so badly, if these are right.
Yes.
I think all these years, media has pumped up Prashant Kishore into this great election winner. He wins elections for others. Now that convinced him into believing that he can go ahead and win an election for himself. Well, it doesn't work like that. A backroom strategist, if he could go and win an election, then a lot of us over here would be sitting in parliament.
What's your seat, Kanchanda?
So we would have been sitting.
What's your most logical seat?
I mean, listen. So we would
all of us are Khan Market candidates. All of us are Khan Market candidates.
Khan Market MPs. MPs
May I
of
just
Khan
add one 10 seconds.
गलत फहमी है कि आपने ममता बनर्जी को चुनाव जितवा दिया.
Kanchanda is still not telling us which seat he fancies. एक तो होगी कहीं पे.
Rahul, for all
You're making light of the matter, but it's a serious thing. So,
INA market.
But
so strategists or campaigners or campaign planners, they are very good at their job. They are
No,
important.
but can I counter argue to say that Kanchiram said, पहला चुनाव हारने के लिए, दूसरा हराने के लिए, तीसरा जीतने के लिए. Would we be judging this too soon? If
वो
we
सब
can
बोलने के लिए, where is Baspa today?
Let me say, Kashiram had a caste backing. That's a different issue. One I am saying Prashant Kumar, because media, as you rightly pointed out, media ability term. Because media is always looking for a person who is not true anti-establishment, but they want some person who seems to be anti-establishment. Let us promote him also. His voice also.
But sir, you know this well. You need a juicy story.
Rahul, listen. Rahul, can
May I just comment?
2 points here?
So, one small comment, Tehseen.
Sure.
My problem is that migration was a big issue. Every opposition leader was talking about migration as this anathema and it shouldn't happen from Bihar. But when the migrant workers were actually coming to vote in Bihar, did you see any opposition leader sitting with kiosks and wooing them and telling them to go vote for Mahagathbandhan? It was only the BJP, not even JDU. It was only the BJP which was, holding fort at railway stations.
I have some data from the Matrice poll, and I will show this to our viewers to give a sense of how one of the polls is saying the caste matrix of Bihar rolled in this election. So let's take a look at that data right now, which will give you a sense of how the different communities voted. Now, this is Matrice vote share. They're saying that amongst the general upper caste, 69% of the voters voted for the NDA, only 15% for the Gadbandhan. amongst the OBCs, which is where the Yadavs are also placed in this classification, 51% voted for the NDA, 39% for the Gathbandhan. Amongst the Dalits, 49%, and this is really what the poll came down to. The fact that this vote is getting split, Tejaswi and the Gathbandhan were hoping to pull this towards the MGB. That hasn't happened. Amongst Muslims, quite predictably, massive consolidation, 78% voting for the Gathbandhan. Rajan Pandey, what does your caste matrix look at? Is it very similar to what we are seeing over here? And do you think that Dalits vote getting split in favor of the NDA is one of the reasons why the NDA seems so comfortably placed? You're on mute right now. Give us your caste matrix. Yes.
Yes, in terms of the caste matrix, we shared the data with you. See, the thing is that in Bihar, as everybody else has pointed out, the thing is that everything boils down to caste, is what everybody has been saying. And if you just add the caste supporting particular alliances and the parties which are parts of those alliances, then NDA already has a clear edge. So I don't see why there is so much conflict about the idea that NDA is going to, win this election. Because if we just add up the caste supporting various castes and communities supporting various parties of the NDA, their social matrix is far more, far stronger, far bigger than the social matrix of the Mahagathbandhan.
Amit Shah thought in 2015, Ashok Malik, that he could challenge that the BJP is strong enough to win alone, as he discovered when the BJP won just more than 50, that's not the case. Rajan Pandey says, you just look at the caste lineup at the starting point and you know how this election finishes. Is that what Bihar will always be about?
No, not just Bihar. I mean, if you look at UP last year, that was also a very clever class coalition building by the Samajwadi Party and the Congress together, which did eventually
Why do you think Gathbandhan couldn't do it in Bihar?
Well, if you look at UP last year, just comparing UP last year to Gathbandhan this year, if these indeed are the results, the Muslim Yadav candidates were not at the forefront of the Samajwadi Party. They put together a vast sort of rainbow of candidates from different communities. I don't think the Mahagathbandhan or RJD did that.
That's a very basic and obvious thing to do. Rajan Pandey, why do you think they didn't do it? Especially because Akhilesh Yadav successfully laid out a template and a playbook in the Lok Sabha elections. Why did Tejaswi not follow it? So many Yadav candidates being given tickets versus, as Ashok pointing out, so many of the big faces of the SP are actually non-Yadavs, non-Muslims in 2024.
That's what surprises me also, because that was something which was tried and tested in Uttar Pradesh with success from one of the alliance partners of the India alliance, and that same formula could have been replicated. But there are two things for which I think Tejaswi could not do it. Number one, Tejaswi Yadav does not control the Yadav votes of Bihar like Akhilesh Yadav controls it in UP. So Akhilesh Yadav could say to Yadavs, okay, we are not going to give tickets to these many other, more than these numbers, and still the Yadavs will vote for Samajwadi Party. That could not happen in Bihar. In fact, in Bihar, if you look at Mithila and Simanchal regions, you will find that Yadavs, whenever there is a candidate, a Muslim candidate or non-Yadav candidate from the Mahagathbandhan alliance partners, they actually vote in BJP. And this, in fact, in case of JDU also, JDU has shown that it could get Yadav votes with ease. One of the biggest strongmen of Kosi Simanchal region from the JDU side is Vijender Yadav, who has been there since last 30 years. So the type of control that Akhilesh Yadav commands in terms of the Yadav votes is not there. And secondly, we were talking about leadership of Tejaswi and his problems. If you talk to the RJD cadres in Bihar, you'll find that his biggest problem is his consultant Sanjay Yadav, his advisor Sanjay Yadav. I mean, I was surprised to see the sheer scale of RJD cadres who hate Sanjay Yadav. And to such an extent that actually there was a family feud between Misa Bharti and one of the sisters and Sanjay Yadav and Tejaswi Yadav and all.
No, so A, there is this entire family dynamic, Veer Sanghvi. The other is, there is a template that Akhilesh laid out last year. He showed you how to win, or at least compete and give them a bloody nose, and yet he didn't follow that. Forget whether it worked for him or not, he couldn't even follow it.
Yeah, I actually find his whole campaign to be a bit of a mystery because he didn't do anything significantly different. He didn't appear to stand for anything. He attacked Modi, he attacked the chief minister, he attacked Nitish, but so what? He needed to have some issue that could get him elected. He needed to have a strategy that could change the way in which people voted. He did nothing. It was just more of the same. And when you have more of the same, because Nitish did more of the same, and he did more of the same, it is, as Shubhrasta says, people go back to identity, to caste, and there they were at a disadvantage.
It also shows, Chetan, how the opposition in India seems locked in a Chakravyuh where they can't find a way out.
They need a story, and they can't seem to get that one story which is against the NDA, that all over the country it seems to be an issue. Bihar people thought they might have a chance because the Muslim population is much higher. There's a lot of reasons why Bihar they could have won. And if you see the opinion polls 6 months back, they were neck and neck. I mean, it was supposed to be a nail biter. But, and even the last elections, the vote shares and all were very, very close. If you remember the data, this time there seems to be much more. So, you know, opposition has tried. To be fair, they all have been, like Bihar has been very important. They have been trying. They did try to do the candidate selection. But yeah, they don't have that story.
Which the opposition is stuck in this Chakravyuh which they can't seem to get out of.
I tend to agree with Chetan, and to the starting point, I think sometimes, and I say this because I want the opposition to win, we are stuck in an echo chamber. We are, as I said earlier, the inability of Tejaswi Yadav to break through that 35%. We are stuck in every universe in those who are cheering us, not wanting to see the extra fence sitters that we want to get onto our side. So we start believing the narrative that we create. For example, let me say that the vote chori issue was okay till the extent to get your cadre mobilized in the beginning of the election. It shouldn't have carried on. Now, elections, and Prabhu sir, you will agree with me, is a lot like momentum. You had a momentum going in the beginning of before the BJP even started a campaign. That was suddenly broken. Suddenly you didn't know what was happening. You had two different things, and nobody took Tejaswi seriously when he said, I can give you 3 crore jobs. So everything should have been
and with the vote Adhikar Yatra, you kind of build it further as you come close to polling. You don't take it to a climax and then go off on a leaf.
Exactly what PK did. So the whole thing should have then translated into vote Adhikar, should have become Bihar Adhikar, and come back and we will give you your Adhikar. We didn't do.
But anyway, that's for the losing side in these exit polls. The victors though, what's the sense in that cap? Dhananjay Giri joins us, spokesperson of the BJP. Dhananjay ji, the NDA and the BJP would be quite pleased with the numbers in the way they stand right now?
Nikhil Anand here.
Boliye,
Rahul, Dhananjay Giri is not joining you. I am Nikhil Anand.
Boliye, sir.
Yeah. See, this election is very interesting in the sense that there was no other credible face. And Tejaswi failed to create a kind of conviction among the masses. And here we took the lead. NDA was a united force which started their campaign long back. In August, you remember, we held our collective district level NDA meeting in all the districts we held. Then we started with all assembly constituency had a NDA Sammelan. We completed this in September, October, half of the October. And here we took the lead. And Tejaswi failed to create a kind of rapport with Rahul Gandhi. Both were pulling the election apart. Vote chori was diffused, and Tejaswi Yadav came up with a very lucrative agenda, offered the Jivika sisters 30,000 rupees and permanent jobs, as well as other agenda by giving job to every household, a person of every household. But he failed to bring this agenda to the masses.
No, so now one of the subtext, of course, is how important is it, Nikhilji, whether the BJP comes out number 1 or number 2? Do you think the actual thing to look at is BJP and JDU and who ends up first and who ends up second? Would you be tracking that very carefully? Could there be a plot after the data comes out on the 14th?
No, actually, there was a good compatibility and coherence. And we responded each other very well. In every constituency where even LJP contested, the JDU and BJP workers were managing the election. In my constituency, Maner, it was done. And I see that the kind of rapport we saw among the NDA cadres, that was not there in earlier elections.
Okay. Stay with me for a moment. I want to go across to Maithili Thakur. She's a well-known singer, politician, contested her first election, one of the young faces in this campaign. Maithili, welcome. How was this campaign for you? As someone straight out of the world of music, fighting an election, what was this experience like for you?
I think this was the best decision of my life. और जिस तरीके से लोगों के बीच रहकर मुझे ये 30 दिन में मैंने जो सीखा है, ये किसी भी किताब से, किसी भी अन्य सोर्स से मैं नहीं सीख सकती थी। और 1 महीने मेरे लिए पूरा लाइफ चेंजिंग रहा है।
तो क्या सीखा आपने? गाने गाना एक चीज़ है, लोगों के बीच में जाके वोट मांगना आप कह रहे हैं कि बहुत सीखा आपने। हमारे दर्शकों को बताएं NDTV पे कि क्या सीखा आपने?
राजनैतिक अनुभव मेरा शून्य था। 1 महीने में मैंने ये सीखा है कि कैसे किसी भी चीज़ से ऊपर जनता जनार्दन का सम्मान, स्नेह और प्यार है, और किस तरीके से आप लोगों के बीच में रह करके उनकी सारी समस्याओं को पहले सुने और अपने हिसाब से आप उनकी कैसे मदद कर सकते हैं, क्योंकि राजनीति एक ऐसा मंच आपको देता है, एक ऐसी ताकत भी आपको देता है जिससे आप लोगों की समस्याओं को समाधान बहुत ही एफिशिएंटली कर सकते हैं। तो ये सारी चीज़ें, एक पर्सनल मैनिफेस्टो बनाना अपने क्षेत्र के लिए, जो हमारी पार्टी ने दिया है वो तो है ही, उसको जन जन तक पहुंचाना, कैसे वो सारी चीज़ें लोगों तक, वो सारी सुख सुविधाएं पहुंचाएं, अपने हिसाब से आपको कहाँ कहाँ क्या क्या त्रुटियां नज़र आ रही हैं उसको ठीक करना। तो ये सब चीज़ों का एक संकलन बनाना कि आने वाले 5 साल में मुझे क्या क्या करना है। तो ये दूरदृष्टि मुझे राजनीति ने ही सिखाया है।
तो आप अलीनगर से लड़ रही थी, आपका अलायंस तो जीत रहा है, ऐसे एग्जिट पोल के डेटा बता रहे हैं। आपको विश्वास है कि आप भी जीत रही हैं, या आप में अभी जैसे एग्जाम से पहले छात्र की थोड़ी टेंशन होती है कि एग्जाम तो हो गया, पता नहीं पर्चा कैसा कटेगा?
मेरा 1 सेकंड भी ये मैं नहीं सोच रही हूँ कि क्या होगा मेरे साथ, मैं जीतूंगी या हारूंगी, क्योंकि मैं इतनी ज़्यादा खुश और सेटिस्फाइड हूँ अपने 30 दिन के जर्नी से कि मुझे पूरा विश्वास है। ऐसा नहीं तो मन में फीलिंग आती है कि नहीं, मैं 5 साल में अब यहीं पे लोगों के बीच में रह करके सेवा करने वाली हूँ, तो मैं उसके लिए मेंटली तैयार हूँ।
अच्छा, आप फोक सिंगर हैं, तो मैं चाहूँगा कि जाने से पहले आप ये बताएं कि इस समय जब वोटिंग ख़त्म हो चुकी है बिहार में, आपके जहन में, आपकी ज़ुबान पर, आपके दिमाग में क्या गाना आ रहा है?
मैं लोकगीत ही सुनाती हूँ एक, बिल्कुल वोटिंग और इस सब माहौल से हट करके जो मैं सोच रही हूँ।
प्लीज़।
भगवती गीत सुनाती हूँ, क्योंकि आज मैं बहुत सारे मंदिर भी दर्शन करने गई थी।
अच्छा, अगर आपके जहन में 2-3 गाने, तो आपको 2-3 सुनाने होंगे। आप बोल रही कि अलग अलग गाने आ रहे, तो पहले वाले से स्टार्ट करते हैं, प्लीज। यस।
जगदम्बा घर में दियरा बार आईनी है, जग तारन घर में दियरा बार आईनी है, हम बार आईनी है दियरा, बार आईनी है हम, बार आईनी है दियरा, बार आईनी है, जगदम्बा घर में दियरा बार आईनी है, जग तारन घर में दियरा।
वेरी नाइस। आपको लगता है आपकी आवाज़ सुन के वोटर्स ने आपको वोट दिया, या आपके चुनावी वायदे सुन के?
अरे हमारे वोटर्स इतने ज़्यादा सजग कहूँ, क्या कहूँ, समझदार है कि उनको कोई भी जुमला उनके सामने में रखा जाए उससे प्रभावित ना होते हुए उनको मालूम है कि हमको कैसा बिहार चाहिए। मेरे
शुभराष्ट्र है, शुभराष्ट्र भी बिहार से आती है, उनके पास आपके लिए एक फरमाइश है। शुभराष्ट्र
जी बताइए।
मैथिली, आप प्लीज विद्यापति जी का भगवती गीत गा दीजिए।
जय जय भैरवी असुर भयाउनी, पशुपति भामिनी माया, सहज सुमति वर दियहि गोसाउनी, अनुगत गति तू अपाया, जय जय भैरवी असुर भयाउनी.
Thank you.
Thank you. She's looking very calm, very relaxed. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll have you back on the 14th and we wish you all the best. It does teach you a lot, Prabhuji. Just fighting in 1 month, I can quite imagine what the young girl is saying. Teaches you more than any school and college you can go to.
Very confident. I admire her for that reason.